We have multiple winter storms on the way with a lot of snow and ice in the week ahead with a battle zone forming. So let's take a look at the overall jet stream and talk about this battle zone that with this west to east progression, that is more of a zonal flow. So if you live on the southern branch of that battle zone, you're likely in the warm sector this week. In fact, even some record-breaking temperatures as warmer anomalies will be inundating a good part of the south. But to the north of there, we've got a conveyor belt of moisture coming in with series of atmospheric river events coming in off the west coast. That's going to be feeding and tapping into some of that colder air that will be taking shape in the battle zone. So if you live within this region, you're likely going to be seeing some snow and a lot of ice in the week ahead, especially across the Ohio Valley and portions of the Mid-Atlantic. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in to get all my daily updates on this channel to keep you well ahead of the storm. So here is that battle zone today, and these are actual temperatures, folks. Yes, that's not a misprint. We could be looking at 46 potential record high temperatures, and you see the temperature gradient with the southern branch of that battle zone. You're locked into the warm sector. All those areas that are highlighted in the circle, that's where you could be seeing some record breaking temperatures. So widespread 80s for the deep south, even some 90s showing up on the map there in Texas. But look at the sharp gradient in temperatures once you reach north of that battle zone there in Nebraska, especially through the Dakotas. And yes, that is below zero high temperatures today, and a good part of Montana checking in at 9 there in Wyoming. So we've got a series of atmospheric river events that will be coming in off the west coast. One is impacting northern California now. You can see this conveyor belt of moisture coming in off the Pacific, and that is dumping inland those areas into northern California as well as into southern Oregon. That's going to push inland and help feed what would likely be not just one but two winter storms that are going to be on the table between now and through this weekend. So let's talk about some of this colder air, which is a shallow air mass heading into tomorrow afternoon. I mean, look at the temperature gradients on the feels like temperatures as we're talking widespread 60s and 70s across the deep south. But just to the north of there, yes, those feels likes are going to be right at freezing, if not below freezing in the afternoon, folks, in Oklahoma. But yes, there is winter to the north and more like springtime temperatures to the south as we'll be setting up our battle zone in the week ahead. And what's important is now let's take a look at the vertical velocity index. What you're looking at here is all these areas in brown. That is more like your sinking air. You got to have upward rising motion air, which is highlighted in the green, to produce some at least precipitation. So you got to have some sort of movement or lift to create that upward rising motion air mass. And you can definitely see for a good part of the country on the northern branch of that jet stream, we are highlighted in the green. So that definitely implies once this system comes in off the west, that's going to create the lift, and then the air is going to be rising. That means it's going to be overturning and producing precipitation, which would likely form into the frozen type of precipitation, as temperatures would likely be right at freezing or if not below freezing north of that battle zone. And even heading into next week, once that dam breaks and that colder air will be allowed to sink further south, yes, we've got more areas highlighted in the green. So we've got actually a lot of precipitation that could unfold across a good part of the lower 48 with these systems coming in. So we have two coming in the week ahead, and we got another winter storm even into early next week. So here's the conveyor belt of moisture that's coming in for today. We've got that series of disturbances that will be coming in off the west coast, pummeling with heavy rains and snow in the higher elevations. But look at the conveyor belt of snow with areas that have been to Idaho, back into Wyoming, into areas of Montana, and that just traverses right on the northern periphery of that battle zone. You're looking at light to moderate, if not some heavy snows at times, through Minnesota, as well as into Wisconsin, northern areas of Michigan, and to the south of there, you're highlighted in that southern branch of the battle zone. But by Thursday, that sinks a little bit further south. So these are actual temperatures heading into Wednesday night. You can see southern branch, that's where the warmer anomalies are, well to the south, but to the northern branch, it's all winter, and we're looking at freezing conditions highlighted over Missouri, back into Iowa, as well as into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, areas of Pennsylvania. Now that's crucial as this system comes in from west to east. And as it does, again, with that vertical velocity index highlighted in that green, it's going to easily cause this air to rise and overturn to produce precipitation. And that would likely fall in the form of freezing rain. And yes, that would mean ice starting to form on all the roadways there in Illinois, back into Indiana, as well as into Ohio. So you got the south wind pulling in the warmer anomalies from the south. You've got the cold Arctic air pressing southbound. And in the middle, you've got the battle zone. And that's what will take shape and produce some more significant ice would likely start to unfold, especially if we get deeper into Wednesday night, going into Thursday morning. This transfers over into Virginia and back into Pennsylvania. And yes, as we head into Thursday afternoon, some of this will transfer back over to a chilly rain in portions of Ohio, but it'll be all ice again, still into Pennsylvania. Upstate New York would likely impact areas of northern New Jersey. And this would likely shift into, Connecticut, back into areas of Massachusetts as well. And eventually, I think this even heads into Rhode Island with some ice heading into that Thursday night time frame. But we're not over yet. So that would be the first winter storm. This would be the second winter storm, was another conveyor belt, another atmospheric river event comes in. Again, similar places there into Northern California with more heavy rains that'll push inland. And as it moves across, we're still in that battle zone with the warmer anomalies for the south. This would be likely into the weekend for your Saturday, but a lot of the similar places would likely get some of the heavier snows again into Minnesota, back into Wisconsin. Further south, you're locked into the battle zone. So we're talking more ice into Illinois, Indiana, back into Ohio, as well as into Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, gets crushed again with more significant ice. So we've got Wednesday night into Thursday, and then we got Saturday going into Sunday morning with that significant ice. So all that adds up to this, folks. So yes, we could be looking at a glaze to 1/10 of an inch, if not 1/4 inch, even some areas, piling up to over a 1/2 inch of ice, more significant ice. So it begins with the first system on Wednesday night, heading into Thursday morning, into Thursday afternoon. And then we have that second system that comes in on Saturday through Sunday morning. So it all adds up to this. Areas of northern portions of Missouri, Iowa, back into Illinois, Wisconsin, getting into Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and then areas of West Virginia, portions of Virginia, but especially there in Pennsylvania, New York, getting into New Jersey. This goes into Long Island, back into Massachusetts. There's Rhode Island, folks, and as well as into Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, and a little bit of that into Maine, but most of that will be snow into Maine. But as we head into next week, this is what we're talking about, the dam breaking, because right now we've got that zonal flow, but the NAO is going to go sharply negative going into the start of that second week of February. And I think that's when that dam's going to break, and that strong jet stream is going to allow to buckle, allowing that colder air mass to sink further southbound. And it's going to go all the way down into the deep south, the deeper we get into that second week of February. And there are the temperature anomalies going into that Monday, February the 10th time frame. There is the dam breaking now. So now that Arctic air is not going to be bundled up there into the north. It's going to start transferring further south Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and slowly the southeast ridge will be starting to eat away all week long next week as that cold air will continue to press further southbound. And as it does, we'll be looking at for another system forming even further south. So now we've got a trough starting to set up across areas of New Mexico that will likely swing across northern areas of Texas. So that puts the precipitation much further south with the third winter storm that will be likely unfolded between now and the next 8 days, folks. So this would be next Monday we're talking about. And as it does, again, we'll tap into some of that upward rising motion air, the vertical velocity index, again, highlighted in green, but much further south now. Now we've got the water vapor that tapping into a little bit of abundance amount of moisture with that system coming in off the west, causing that air to rise. And we've got Arctic air plunging southbound by then. That could mean some wintry precipitation further south. So we're talking Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas Panhandle. I can't even probably roll out North Texas even by then. Maybe seeing some wet snows on the back end of this system as it lifts off into the Northeast, back into Arkansas, as well as into Missouri, and this would swing into Tennessee as well as into Kentucky. Notice it's all snow now. Now we got all layers of the atmosphere cold enough to be snow, so it'd likely be all snow with this third setup in Missouri, back into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, especially there in Kentucky, West Virginia, as well as into Virginia with this third system, and then more of a kind of a rain further south into the southeast. And look at the latest European on these snow totals between now and say the 13th of the month. Yeah, this is the first system, the conveyor belt of moisture that's coming in off the west coast, the west-east progression. You've got a secondary system that's coming in right now that will leave some heavier snows into the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, as well as in New England. And that's when it's going to be predominantly that ice that will likely form Wednesday night, Thursday. Then you got Saturday and Sunday, and then here's that third winter storm with the setup forming over Colorado back into New Mexico, providing that upward rising motion lift. So we could see some light to moderate snows, even some heavier snows further south into Oklahoma. Can't even roll out North Texas, likely ending with some wet snowflakes after Tuesday night. Next Tuesday night, heading into Arkansas, Missouri, back into Tennessee, Kentucky, heading into Virginia. But the cold air is going to continue to press with that NAO going sharply negative, and really all the Tesla connections going sharply negative. Now you're not going to be in the warmer anomalies at all for the deep south. You're not talking about record-breaking temperatures. You're talking much colder air and even some wintry weather back into the picture. And notice the southeast ridge. By the time we head into that 13th of the month, it's almost completely gone other than the state of Florida. But I think then after Valentine's Day, you'll finally start to get a cool down there in Florida. But we got a lot of colder air coming in off the table, but the series of storms is going to continue to press further south. So once that dam breaks back heading into Sunday, going into the next week, that colder air will continue to drain down there, up there from Canada, all the way down to the deep south, and we'll still have a series of systems. So even as we head into the middle of February, folks, this system could even be further south than what the one could be on Tuesday. So now we're talking, I can't even roll out areas in the I-10 corridor potentially by then of seeing some wintry weather by then, as that cold air will continue to press as we head through the middle of February. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update. Why I protect you before and after the storm.